Hi, I'm Saraaguilar, co-founder of LIV NRG, and today I'm with Dan Pardi at the Ancestral Health Symposium. He is a world-renowned sleep researcher. My first question for you is, for people who think that they can sleep when they're dead,
yes,
what would you say to them?
That is not an uncommon perspective in society. It's changing as we appreciate sleep with more detail and depth, and that message permeates into society. We're now seeing a shift from a perspective that was, if I'm a serious professional, I'm not going to let sleep get in the way, to, if I'm a serious performer, then I'm going to make sure that I'm getting my sleep. And that's a very big sort of cultural, societal perspective shift.
So if you want to perform in business, you need to prioritize your sleep.
You do, and you could juxtapose the idea of, do I want 22 hours of wakefulness, or do I want to have, or let's say 18 or whatever, or do I want to have 12 very good hours? Now there are times where we might need to cheat sleep a little bit for really intense projects that occur. If it becomes your regular pattern, your brain changes in a lot of ways when you're sleep deprived. Some of them are obvious to you, and a lot of them are not. So that's something you need to consider.
If you don't get enough sleep, what's happening to your brain?
Well, not everybody experiences sleepiness, actually, and you can acclimate to that feeling. So some very interesting work was done by a researcher, Hans van Dongen, and he showed that if you're looking at objective measures of sleepiness or alertness the next day, a consequence of poor sleep is reduced alertness. So your reaction time to things is impaired, which means you will react to them more slowly.
So you'll just be slower throughout the day?
Yeah, and the way that how quickly your brain can process information is a good hallmark measure for how a lot of other cognitive aspects will perform. So how you perform in different types of thinking. And one thing that we see is that the more sleep deprivation you get, whether it's over the course of one period of time, so you're up for many days in a row, or much more relevant if you have not enough sleep many days in a row. That's much more relevant to how most people sleep. Then you have this accumulation of sleep debt factors, and that impairs your performance in a linear way.
So if you're not getting enough sleep for a consistent period of time, then you're causing cognitive damage, or at least impairing your cognitive function if you don't sleep enough.
That's right. The other very interesting aspect about his work, however, showed that there was a saturation of the subjective sleepiness that occurs during that period. So while you are objectively performing worse, subjectively it gets worse for a bit and then it levels off. So you're not getting the feedback that you're performing well, even though you objectively are.
So you don't realize how badly you're performing then?
That's right. It leads to a state of overestimating your readiness to perform and underestimating your impairment.
Okay, so you think you'll be able to do well at work, but you won't because you've had a general lack of sleep over a long period of time.
So that's a very interesting and nuanced question. You may not necessarily perform badly. If you are a very high performer, you might stay within a performance zone that is adequate. So this really is about optimal performance and underperformance. And a lot of people that are high performers live in a state of underperformance because they're performing actually well enough. If you look at them objectively, it's like, oh, it's pretty good, right? I think you should aim for, how can I perform at my very best? In a course of 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, can I look back on that body of work and realize that it was the absolute best of what I can deliver versus it was pretty good, I got by.
And you can do that better if you're sleeping properly? 100%.
Sleep is the best nootropic.
The best nootropic?
Oh, 100%. That is a true statement, because so much of us in the modern world will live in a state of slight sleep deprivation. We acclimate to that effect. It's normalized by everybody else that's doing it in society. And so we're fighting sleep molecules that are existing in the brain, changing how we're thinking. And because of that, then that just feels normal. And if you get a great night's sleep for, let's say, 3 weeks in a row, you feel superhuman. And so this has been some very interesting work that's been tested in Stanford athletes, for example, where they have no sleep issues coming in. And after they were randomized, they take a group of those athletes, their habitual sleep time is 7.5 hours. They're told to get 9. They do the best they can to get 9 hours a night. And all these athletes that are young, vigorous people that report no deficit in how they feel in energy and mood are shooting more accurately, are reporting enhancements in energy and vigor. So you can really acclimate to that feeling of this is normal, and once you get in touch with that feeling of exceptional, that can motivate you to do those hard things. Getting good sleep, in a way, is almost like avoiding hyperpalatable foods.
You have to be so disciplined about it. You've got to be as disciplined about when you go to sleep as when you're getting up in the morning.
Yes.
And how much sleep do we need a night? That's
a very common question, and the answer to that varies. We all have our own individual sleep need that can differ across the lifespan, and it can also even differ with genders. Women tend to sleep more than men, and it'll also vary within you. So if you're fighting an infection, you had a very hard workout, you might need more sleep than you did last week. Now, the things that really matter are timing, intensity, and duration. Duration is the question of how much do I need, but the timing of when that sleep occurs is equally important. So for example, if you typically sleep between midnight and 8, but now you go to bed one night between 4 and you wake up at noon, you've slept 8 hours, right, in both of those windows, but you're sleeping in a different phase. And that period, that sleep in the 4 to noon won't be as restorative. So in that case, tells you about how important timing is. So you want to have that sleep period be very consistent if you can.
Is that because of the different types of sleep that you get at different times of the night?
So much of sleep is a circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythms are looking at past behaviors and exposures to try to say, okay, this typically occurs at this time of day. It could be eating, it could be sleeping. Therefore, I'm going to try to optimize the physiology so that we maximize the benefit or prepare for that physiological behavior. And so if you're sleeping regularly in a certain window, that time spent sleeping will be optimized because your body knows to expect it, and it'll prepare to do it as best as it can.
So when you wake up after, say, you've had 8 hours sleep, but you wake up and you don't feel like you've slept at all, what's going on there?
That's an interesting one. That can be what's called hypersomnolence. Typically, we can experience that if we actually sometimes sleep too long. Where you have your sleepiest days when you slept maybe an hour more than you used to.
It makes you feel lethargic, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, you still stay asleep.
Yes, and there's not one theory about how to get out of that is to do something that activates your sympathetic nervous system, cold shower, hard exercise. Honestly,
if you sleep too long.
Yeah, and you feel that really groggy. I have never really I've benefited a little bit from those interventions, but nothing has abolished it. The only thing that really solves that problem is waiting for the day to be over and getting a good night's sleep the next night. So there are some people that try to resist sleeping past your usual wake time because you run the risk of then waking up in a deeper phase of sleep. And if you wake up in slow wave sleep, that can be the condition that causes the somnolence in the day.
Is that to do with sleep cycles? So if you wake up and then for people who set their alarm, and the more they set their alarm in 15-minute increments, the more tired they feel. Is that because they're stuck in the middle of the cycle and they didn't get to finish it?
So REM sleep stands for rapid eye movement, and it also has been considered the gateway to waking. If you wake up from REM sleep, I interviewed John Peever, professor at University of Toronto, published an article discussing this, part of it, but he's an expert in REM. And he thinks that the quality of wakefulness might actually be better if you wake from REM than if you did from other stages of sleep, any other stage.
I've noticed I always feel better if I wake up in the middle of a dream. It's night, you just feel much soothed and more relaxed.
Your physiology, if you look at your physiology in REM sleep, your blood pressure's high, your heart rate's higher, your body is executing, the brain is going back and actually replaying ideas that occurred that day and trying to integrate those into neural networks. So you take new information, you integrate it to existing frameworks, and that process is very active. So the body actually undergoes paralysis, the muscles are under paralysis, but it's still very active. And so if you watch a dog that's in REM sleep, they're twitching.
They're running, aren't they?
Yes.
Sleep.
But if those mechanisms of paralysis were not there, then what would happen to a dog that could run? given what they're seeing in their minds. They'd run right into the wall and damage themselves. That's called REM sleep behavior disorder. Mostly men in their 50s and 60s, that is a sleep condition that can occur, and it's thought to be prodromal for development of Parkinson's disease. So it might be the loss of certain neurons in the microstriatal area that is causing that problem.
How much REM sleep are we supposed to get each night?
There are a lot of, so here is a really interesting idea around this subject. A lot of these elements of sleep are what are called homeostatic. If you didn't get very good sleep last night, the type of sleep you get tonight would be in response to pressures for those stages that build up. If you got a ton of slow wave sleep and a ton of REM sleep tonight, you might not get that much the next night because you've reduced that pressure. And so looking at those nightly scores night after night and then trying to use what you see to then say, okay, what should I have done the night before? You can run into a lot of problems there. Most people don't need to be necessarily assessing their slow wave sleep or much of their sleep architecture.
With slow wave sleep, do you mean deep sleep or?
Slow wave sleep and deep sleep are synonymous.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And that is basically different. For a while it was, the question is how much, is there certain stages that really matter more and other stages that don't? We really need all stages of sleep, even the lighter stages. It's the concatenation of those stages that actually help us with transfer of memory, all the different physiological processes that need to occur during sleep, reduction in oxidative stress, DNA repair, clearing out of lymphatic waste products that occur during the day, the buildup of energy usage that occurs during the day into these metabolic waste products. We need to clear those at night. All that stuff that you want sleep to do to lead to physiological restorativeness the next day, to feel fresh mentally, to feel vigorous physically, it requires all of those stages. And so sometimes if you can try to figure out something that might optimize for one stage, it might be at the expense of another.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that because on a personal note, I get an hour and a half to 2 hours deep.
Yeah.
I often get 3.5 hours of REM, and my REM is often 2 to 3 times what my deep is.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That's quite high. It's probably telling me that that device is not tracking it accurately. That is outside of the range. That's close to 50% of REM. So I don't think it's that. Young children that are newborns will get about 50% of their time in REM or more. And so sleep devices are interesting. We want them to give us mountains of data, and yet that might not be that useful because you could get data that tells you, I'm getting this much REM, what's wrong? Where there really might not be anything wrong. I think that these devices are best used when they change your behavior to do the things that I call mundane but meaningful. Getting into bed on time, planning to spend enough time in bed, and doing other things during the day that lead to good sleep at night, which is really robust, healthy living in general. Getting light exposure, eating good food, getting physical activity, and we don't need to overcomplicate it too much. Those are the facts of health and good sleep. And sleep is then, of course, the way where during the day you actually, of course, consume nutrients and minerals, but you're also under healthy conditions. You're incurring stress in the forms of exercise and even solar radiation. And at night, our body responds to that in an adaptive manner, keeps us healthy and strong. So
there's not so much credibility all the time with sleep trackers, you'd say. So if you wake up and you've got a bad score and then you get worried, you should not necessarily trust it. Or are there devices that are more reliable?
I think a lot of the good ones are approximately equivalent to one another.
Yeah.
You have to ask how much accuracy do you need and for what? So if you're trying to diagnose something, if you are trying to then say, okay, well, we know that if somebody has X amount of REM or X amount of slow wave sleep, then this is a high sensitivity, low selectivity example of, well, this person might have sleep apnea. We're going to then alert a doctor. They should go get that tested. But if your sleep is perfectly fine and I'm giving you lots of data, you can essentially, I have a saying that every time you show somebody some information, and that's not actionable, you're potentially distracting them from what is. And so I think to the degree that a sleep tracker is helping you engage with your sleep, that's getting you to think, okay, I got to go to sleep tonight, I got to get into bed on time, here are some pre-bed alarm clock, it's going off an hour before I want to get into bed. Great, it's a way to get in there and to engage with your sleep regularly.
And then you notice the factors that impact your sleep as well, and you can make changes to improve it.
Yeah, we all like to tinker. It is human to, let's say it's well known in research you shouldn't drink coffee right before bed, but if you had been doing that your whole life and you stop and you see your data change, that personalized experience can then reinforce that this sort of sea of information that we have to try to work through. Okay, this is actually something that is having an effect on me, so I should tend to it.
What are the main factors that disturb sleep, do you think?
Well, there are many. The largest one is light exposure.
Light exposure.
Yeah, the improper light exposure. The TED talk that I gave, How to Optimize Light, did not just focus on sleep. It did talk about sleep, but again, because our sleep is a circadian rhythm, we are usually sleeping at the same time. Then, if you have circadian misalignment, which means our body timing systems are off, then all of the processes that occur during sleep won't be as effective as they would be if you were really at really good circadian alignment.
So if you get too much light before going to bed, then it's going to delay the time that you fall asleep.
Yes, and if you don't get enough light during the day or in the morning, so you want to have the essence of the talk was try to emulate natural patterns of light in your day. So what does light look like in the morning? And if you're going to be inside in an office, what's the best thing you can do to have your inside lighting environments reflect what's happening outside? Take steps from modest to more intense to try to make that as synchronous as possible.
So you could sit by a window or go outside at lunchtime, but definitely get sunlight in the morning.
Yes. So one thing that I had mentioned in the talk is not only did I change bulbs, I changed my behavior, right? So there are things you can do to have your light be better for the time of day, but you can also get outside more, because the light that you're going to get outside is the best possible light you could get that time of day. Whatever it is, it's going to be perfect for that time of day. And so in the evening, if you didn't get a lot of outdoor light during the day, the impact of artificial light, full spectrum, that contains a lot of blue light, will have a greater disruptive impact than if you were to have been outside all day. So it's a relationship. And
so what should you do in the evening then? So if you walk home, you're at home.
Yes.
You have all the lights off in the evening, or what?
You can create circadian darkness, which filters out blue light. What that means is that you can see fine, because the tones of light that you have in your room or that you're looking at on your phones are giving off an amber tone, amber red, and that doesn't tell your brain it's day.
So you have a blue light blocker on your phone then, and your computer if you're on it, and then okay.
That's one way. Turn off lights that you're not using. Maybe you have certain lamps that you only have on during the night, or you can have bulbs now that change, which are cool. That's one of the more sort of sophisticated technological advancements. Earlier in the day, you have very cool temperature. So cooler temperatures are measured in Kelvin, and that would be bluer and brighter.
To help you wake up in the morning.
Wake up in the morning and of course midday.
So what would your 3 top tips be for people to improve their sleep?
Yeah. All things about how we live are going to influence our sleep, and then our sleep is going to influence all the ways that we feel like living. So for instance, you're more prone and more likely to get physical activity. So aligning with your own objectives for health, when you get good sleep, you're more able to live into your own capacities to be healthy. So it is a really tight relationship between our sleep and our health, and our health and our sleep. It's this beautiful, virtuous cycle when things are going well, and it's a vicious cycle when it's not.
So to help people get better quality sleep,
yeah,
what are the 3 small things that they can do to make that happen?
Yeah, so light is key. That's the number one thing that I would say. Getting physical activity during the day, and it doesn't have to be a lot. A regular physical activity versus a binge and purge type relationship where I'm not physically active during the day, and then on weekends I do a lot of physical activity. Try to get physical activity every single day. I invented something called in-tune training, which is basically designed to help us get little bits of movement into the day versus mentally constraining ourselves to workouts, which cluster all the physical activity into one batch. And that is, it's not to say only do in-tune and don't do regular workouts. Do workouts, but unconstrain yourself from the limiting perspective of I have to be in certain clothes and I have to be at a certain place.
It's just low-level activity throughout the day.
It could even be body weight stuff, squats, push-ups, all that. But you can do it. You can do an email and you can engage in some of that and you go back to work. Make work fit physical activity into your day. That's huge.
So you've got light physical activity, and then the last one.
So I think I'll focus on beverages.
Okay.
Caffeine has a long half-life, and so even though you might not be feeling caffeine later in the evening, if you had it earlier in the day, it still could be lightening your sleep. So I don't drink any caffeine afternoon. In fact, I even try to drink it earlier than that, so no more than after 10.
So at least 10 to 12 hours then before you go to bed, have your last cup of coffee.
Yeah. Secondarily, alcohol can disrupt sleep, and it does so in a way that's a bit confusing because it can make you sleepier. But as it's metabolizing out, one aspect of the central nervous system depressant is excitation. So if you think about drinking alcohol, it's not we all like it because it just makes us want to go to sleep. In fact, it makes us more exuberant and lively under the right circumstances. So as alcohol is metabolizing out of your system, it can actually lighten sleep as well. And you can wake up in the morning feeling absolutely terrible and like you didn't get any sleep at all. So watch your beverages. You
fell asleep quickly and then you just slept badly.
Yeah.
I know it elevates heart rate quite a bit, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does. I have some proof of that last night.
I get such a bad score if I had a drink.
Yeah.
It's terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to learn sort of like, how do I live with health in a way that last night a bunch of us were out and we went out and drank, and I don't actually drink that much, and I definitely try to drink not close to bed, but last night was I knew what I was getting into. Yeah, like I get good sleep generally, so I can handle that better when those things occur.
It's just when it's consistent, we're getting poor quality sleep for a long period of time.
It's bad for you in a lot of ways. It's so common that we don't oftentimes recognize it, but I've really tried to limit my alcohol consumption. And I do. I never drank that much growing up. I didn't drink once in high school or college, and I only started drinking more as an adult. And I think that there is some confusion about whether or not it's good for you at all, even in small doses. It's nice and social, you go out and get a drink, but I don't know we did a very big write-up on this, and I don't know that the health benefits of low doses are really there. It might not be that healthy for you, really. So be considerate with it, and a lot of people aren't going to give it up altogether, but don't drink because it's a health activity.
Yeah, I don't think that's the main motivation for drinking, is it?
Some people it is. It's licensed to do so because yes, these examples
the
are what it's
resveratrol, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, we talk about that.
Yeah.
But you'd need to have a lot of wine to get enough resveratrol to do anything.
Yeah, that's
it would just, that wouldn't work at all.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much
Absolutely.
for taking the time for the interview.
It's nice to be here.
Absolute pleasure.
Likewise.
To finally get to chat to you.
Oh, thank you.
At the Ancestral Health Symposium.
Yes, wonderful. Yeah, it's nice to be here. It's nice to talk with you guys, and good luck with your project.
And where can people find more about you?
Yeah, so humanos.me is the website that I put together. A lot of love and labor have gone into it. Humanos Radio is my podcast. I interview almost exclusively professors about their work and help to try to translate that into something we can understand to live in more alignment with our health in a healthy way. And those conversations are always fascinating to me.
Thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely.